Today's topic, spanking kids. Outdated or still very necessary? Hello everyone, my name is Rogan and this is Bahamian Gyal. On my platform, I do social commentary and reaction videos. I encourage my audience to have private conversations in public. If you enjoy my content and you like what I'm doing on my platform, consider becoming a member. By the way, I'd like to send a special shout out to these members who recently signed up. Black in TV Japan, Jay Farrow, James Ross, Michael Wynn, Hunter Nebid, and Susan Shankin. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. So with that being said, let's get started. So this is one of those conversations that I've been wanting to have on my platform for a very long time. It's one of those conversations that gets people really riled up, especially the parents. And I'm sure there are going to be tons of people who have a lot to say in the comment section about this video. So let me start out by saying that I am a big disciplinarian and I fully support parents who try to curb bad behavior at an early stage. But where I start to get into very heated debates is when we start talking about the method. Growing up in the Bahamas, I heard many of the things that you all probably heard growing up in your house. Go get the belt. You keep crying, I'm gonna give you something to cry about. Wait till your daddy gets home. Let me call my mommy real quick. Hold on. Let me call my mommy real quick and ask her why she never really beat us. I hope she don't cuss. Because she is cuss. Answer the phone, woman.
Hello.
You take so long to answer you take so long to answer the phone. What if I was dying?
You realize when I call you, you decline, and then right after that, I had another call, and you call, and I try to catch the call as quick
Okay. I was recording my video. Okay, you're so rowdy. I have a question for you. I'm in the middle of recording my video. Listen.
That's all right.
No. Listen. I have a question. I just let you know I'm recording you, okay? So, mommy, this week on my channel, I'm talking about spanking kids, whether it's outdated or still very necessary. And one of the things I talked about is how I didn't get spanked as a child, right? Which I'm grateful for. But you didn't really spank your kids. You didn't really spank them. So I wanted to know why you chose not to spank us.
It ain't that I didn't choose not to spank you all. It's just that you all didn't do anything to get spanked. When I talk to y'all, y'all listen. And I didn't have no reason to do anything or beat y'all because y'all were disciplined. Whenever I disciplined y'all listen. And I didn't have no reason to do anything to that effect. So y'all were good kids.
Yeah. So if we were acting up, you would have beat us?
I would cut your ass.
So you are a proponent of spanking. You believe in spanking.
I will spank if it's necessary, but I don't just spank or beat because I have to. And
yeah.
I give you time out and things like that. I give you a long rope. And if you don't do what I say, then you get beaten.
Pop.
I didn't have that problem.
You had good children. You did have good children. I probably was the best child you had.
I don't know about the best, but I know all y'all were very, very good, and I didn't have. God is so good. I didn't have no problem with my children. Thank God.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So I could call you back as soon as I finish recording. Okay. I call you back. All right. Bye. You heard it. She said, okay, she didn't say I was the best child she had. She didn't say that, but we didn't have a reason to get spanked, but spanking was always on the table. So these are things that I heard because I was not spanked as a child. But that didn't mean I didn't feel those hands. So just stick with me through the video. You're going to hear a story. I feel like there are so many people who are on the absolute extremes of this conversation. You have people who are like, oh, I don't spank my kids at all. I would never hit my child. I would never strike my child. I think it's all abuse. I will never do that. You will never catch me hitting my kid. And then there are parents on the other side who are like, I will pick up a tie rod end and beat this child if this child gets out of line. Of course, you have a lot of people who also say, listen, I grew up getting whoopings or spankings or beatings or whatever you guys want to call it. And I turned out okay. I turned out great. You know, I'm grateful to my parents for having spanked me over the years. And so I don't think that there's any harm in doing it to children. For people like myself who are in the middle, we're even considered extreme. I had a conversation with one of my very dear friends many years ago, and she was like, I would never hit my kid. I would never spank my child. ever. Then I remember years later, we went to like an outdoor function and her child was acting up in the front of people, tons of people. And all I saw was those pinch fingers and little spanking, pop, 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 pop. I was like, what?
I know that ain't who I think it is.
I know some of you who watch me are going to be sorely disappointed, but I happen to believe very strongly in spankings. But the difference is I don't believe in spankings as a first line of defense. I find that people just automatically resort to spankings whenever their child is acting up. Kids are different, so each child is going to require a different method of correction. Some children respond to verbal correction, others don't. Some respond to having their privileges stripped away or their toys taken away, or they can't go to different events or parties, a cousin's party or go to a pool party. They can't do any of that stuff, and they respond to that. And some kids only respond to physical discipline, the threat of physical discipline. I have several nieces and nephews, and each one of them responds differently to different forms of correction. I have a niece who doesn't need to be spanked because if you express disappointment in her, like, I'm so disappointed in what you did, oh my God, ball of tears. She is like coming back to apologize and try to figure out like where she went wrong, or she'll be apologetic. So she doesn't need spankings, just because if you just express that you are disappointed in her, that just rocks her world. Then I have another niece. She don't respond to anything but spankings. I'm sorry. Like, if you take away her iPad or say she can't go somewhere, like, she doesn't care. But the minute you say, you know what, you are not listening and I'm going to have to spank you, all of a sudden she flies right. Even in society, people respond to different types of punishment based on what their infraction is, what they've done. There are people who respond to being fined. There are people who only respond when they have privileges stripped away from them, like they can't drive anymore. Their license has been taken away from them. And there are people who only respond when they go to jail and they're like, oh, you know what? I don't want to go to jail again, so I'm going to fly right this time. So it's tiered in society. So I think it should be tiered when it comes to punishing a child.
Hey, Jim, so why is it bad to spank your child?
You know, I really hope that at this point in time that people are beyond spanking kids, because, you know, spanking children, that's a sign of a parent who's out of control. That's somebody who's using punishment, physical punishment, striking your child, somebody that supposedly you love more than anything in life. It doesn't teach anything. Discipline teaches something. Physical punishment, it's aggression and it's violence. And I know I'm going to get lots of comments from people that disagree, and that's fine. Somebody who's in control communicates discipline and consequences and doesn't have to resort to physical violence.
So I disagree with this gentleman who said that a parent spanking a child is basically a parent out of control. I don't agree with that. I think it's only out of control when you're not in control. Meaning, if you decide that you're going to spank your child when you're super angry or the infraction has happened right then and there and you just go crazy on them, then yes, I think it's absolutely abusive. But if a parent says, I'm going to punish you later, I'm going to spank you later, and you talk to the child before and you say, this is why I'm doing this, I think that's completely different. I don't think the parent is out of control in that regard. I've witnessed a lot of parents calmly disciplining their child and not going overboard and saying, listen, I'm doing this because I love you. And a lot of people might say, well, how could you love a child if you spank them? Well, it's discipline. How could you not love a child if you don't discipline them? It just takes different forms, and everybody is different. And the way people rear their kids is different. So I may have my personal feelings about spanking, but it's not going to stop me from bringing you the statistics or bringing you the research regarding this, because a lot of research points to the fact that spanking kids is wrong. So let me just read something from this research that was published in April 2021 that says that spanking alters children's brain response in ways similar to severe maltreatment and increases perception of threats. So I want to also read some stats and some research that I have put together here that I've been reading when I went down my rabbit hole, learning about spanking, especially in the United States. And I have my personal views. I've said to you that I fully support spanking, not as a first line of defense and certainly not abuse. But there are tons of research out there that say like spanking kids is wrong for so many reasons. So I want to read one of these, read a study from the University of Texas at Austin and the University of Michigan, because they researched 150,000 children over a 50-year period. And that showed that spanking is linked to mental health problems, aggression, antisocial behavior, cognitive difficulties, low self-esteem, and substance abuse, and no positive outcomes. I want to disagree with the last statement about no positive outcomes. I feel as a child, and this was for me especially, that when I knew that there was a greater punishment lying around the corner, that it allowed me to act right. And 150,000 kids is a huge sample size. I'm not even disagreeing with that. And that's a 50-year period that they've been investigating. So that is major. I'm totally not going to discount that. But I will say that that's not everyone. You know, there are billions of people in the world. And I'm sure if somebody were to do the research, they would probably find someone who said, yeah, I got spanked. No big deal. Made me a better person. So I was searching for that research. Couldn't find it. I still have some more work to do. I want to talk about the fact that I wasn't disciplined by my mother, but I was disciplined by other people. I remember being in the 5th grade, and I went to a private Catholic school, Roman Catholic school, run by nuns from out of New York, no less. And I remember being punished by the senior nun who was the principal. Now, she punished me, rightfully so, because I stole $50 out of my mother's wallet. Now, I didn't just steal $50 out of her wallet. Like, I had really, really cool friends, and I really wanted to treat them to like burgers and fries and milkshakes and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, let me just ball my friends and, just take $50 out of my mother's wallet. I'm that kind of friend, I'm looking out for y'all. Anyway, that didn't go over so well. My mother called the school to ask if, I don't even know why she would just assume that I must have moved the money. But anyway, well, she wanted to know if my spending habits had been a little different. And the principal noticed that I was just balling kids with burgers, fries, and milkshakes. Anyway, she decided to cane me. And cane me is like when you get paddled, but you don't get paddled with a paddle. You get beat with a cane, which is very thin and thick. So, wait, did I say thin and thick? Wait, how's it thin if it's thick? It's long, and it's not as wide as a paddle. It's skinny, but it's thick. Anyway, it's a cane. Just think about it like that. And she took me in the front of the class, and she explained that I had stolen this $50 out of my mother's wallet, out of her purse, and that was wrong. And as a result, I was going to be punished. Now, I was like, oh boy, I'm going to get beaten in the front of my friends. This is so embarrassing. But here's the thing, what I didn't agree with. I didn't mind the beating so much, right? But she raised my skirt up. She pulled my skirt up to expose my underwear in the front of the class. That I wasn't feeling. And it was so bad that even little boys and stuff in the classroom who would think, you would think would be laughing at this, they were like, nah, this is so wrong. This is so wrong. Especially these are people who are just freaking balled out with burgers and fries and milkshakes. So anyway, so she put my skirt up, my uniform skirt up, and she caned me several times. And I didn't cry because I was so embarrassed. Now, I don't have an issue with the fact that she caned me. I didn't steal the $50 out of malice. I wasn't thinking yeah, I'm going to steal it. I was like, okay, my mother has $50 and I want to ball my friends out. They were really nice to me, so I want to buy them burgers and fries, and I just took her money. And that was my punishment. And let me tell you something. Rogan has not bought burgers and fries for anyone. I ain't buying for nan one of y'all. Because the punishment was so severe in my mind with my underwear being exposed, that I was just like, nah. So, and I'm joking. Obviously, I treat my friends and stuff, but I'm just thinking okay, stealing is definitely wrong. And no, not doing it again. That was severe enough. And she explained why she was doing it. And I know that she cared about me, but I don't look back on that moment with oh, I hate her or anything like that. I hate that she pulled up my skirt, but I totally deserved to be spanked for stealing. And as a result, I don't steal anymore. End of story. One of the things that I would also say is that I think if you have to spank a child every single day of the week, like some parents do, then you have to examine what's going on. And I don't support this spanking every day of the week, because if you're spanking every day of the week, then there's a fundamental problem. There's an underlying problem that you need to address, because the spanking isn't working. And now, to me, you're stepping into this realm of abuse, because no child should have to be spanked every single day. You need to look at other methods. But I also think that kids who are coddled and given this soft treatment, I feel like personally, I feel like they turn out pretty crappy too, because they have no sense of discipline. They have no law, no rule, no sense of order. And you see them being so disrespectful to their parents. You see them out in society just being disrespectful because nobody corrected them. And I'm not just talking about a verbal correction. Nobody put them in their place or spanked them for them to fly right. Children aren't employees who you can fire. They're not spouses or partners who can say, you know what, I'm out of here, walk away. So when they act up, what's the consequence for the bad behavior? Like I said, people are so different, because there are people who were spanked who look back on their spanking, their days of being spanked by their parents or in school via corporal punishment. They look at it as, with aggression and abuse. And there are people who look back on it with a sense of pride, like, boy, especially if it was a parent who inflicted the punishment, they'd say like, oh, my mother wasn't one to play with, or my father didn't play with us. But you know what? I really appreciate him spanking us. I've heard both sides from different people. For those of you who don't know, as of 2024, corporal punishment is still legal in private schools in every U.S. state except for New Jersey, Iowa, New York, and Maryland, and it's still legal in public schools in 17 states. The Centers for Disease Control defines child abuse as the intentional use of physical force that can result in physical injury. So what are the origins of spanking? Where did it come from? When did we start spanking people? I don't think anyone really knows. A lot of Christians will cite the Bible and say, if you spare the rod, you spoil the child. But there were spankings, I would imagine, long before the Bible even existed. There were people on earth before the Bible was even written. So I'm sure some prehistoric mama, beat her kids. Now, unless you have some remains with a belt in her hand or some other tool that they were using to spank their kids, it's hard to determine just, what they were doing in ancient times. Also, children were beaten with other things. And back to me having hands put on me, even though my mother wasn't a spanker. My grandmother was very, child. She was old school. Old school people used to consult my grandmother. Okay. I remember one time I went swimming in the Blue Hole. Now, I didn't go swimming in the Blue Hole. She gave us permission to go to the beach. And my cousins told us, let's just go look at the Blue Hole. This is on a different island in the Bahamas. And we were not supposed to go in the Blue Hole. And I didn't know how to swim. And my cousins, I should call their names just to put them on blast. But anyway, they drop kicked me inside of the Blue Hole and I didn't know how to swim. So this is a real sink or swim situation. And that's where I learned to swim, just being drop kicked inside of the Blue Hole. Listen, I had a rough little childhood, okay? Don't judge me. So when we were walking back, me and my other cousins who were staying at my grandmother's house, we were walking back to the house and we walked inside the house. She said, we were, of course, wet from being in the Blue Hole. And she said, where are you just coming from? And I said, we just coming from the beach. Lie. And she said, I don't smell no salt. I said, well, it must have blown off by the time we walked. She said, oh, it blew off, eh? She said, go take a shower. Go in the bathroom and go take your showers. I was like, oh, yeah, cool. And why did this woman go outside on a tree and get a switch and enter the bathroom while I was all wet and start beating me with the switch? It's like Mother Nature gave her the tools to beat us. So I definitely had some hands laid on me from my principal and from my grandmother. My mother had an incident too one time. I'll have to say that in another video. I'll save that for another video. So when does disciplining your child qualify as abuse? I think this is one of those questions that we definitely need to be pondering because it is a serious question. I think this is going to look different for a lot of people because I've seen children who've been paddled maybe once or twice on their butts and people go, oh no, it's absolutely abuse. That's absolutely abuse. You paddle this child once or twice, it's abuse. And then there are people who believe that any form of spanking in any form is abuse. And then there are people who will pick up anything to attack their child. They don't care. I do think that there are certain things that qualify as abuse. I think if you're using your fists to hit a child, I think if you are kicking your kid, absolutely. I think if you're using objects like you're just picking up things, picking up whatever comes to your hand and throwing it at you. Come on now. I mean, this is just, to me, that's absolutely abuse. Anything that you do that interferes with their breathing. So if you are choking them or you are using a pillow to, I don't want to say the word, but, to harm them. I mean, anything that interferes with their breathing is absolutely abuse. Anyway, let me just get to my questions of the day. Where are you when it comes to spanking? Are you for it or are you against it? And for those of you who were spanked, how did it affect you? Did it affect you? Just weigh in down below. And finally, before I go, I want to send my condolences, my sincere condolences to the family of a fellow YouTuber, Jessica Pettway. She was a beauty and fashion YouTuber here on the platform for many, many years. She's one of the OGs, or she was one of the OGs here on YouTube. I can tell you, I just love Jessica so much and interacted with her often on Instagram. She was just very sweet, very kind, so beautiful. She passed away from cervical cancer. I remember Jessica being so incredibly transparent and sharing her journey with her miscarriage, and then sharing her children with her followers, her subscribers, her fans. And I remember last year, I believe it was, when she said that she was misdiagnosed as having fibroids, and came to find out she actually had cancer, cervical cancer, and just talking about her whole journey. And I just was of the belief that she would have pulled through, that she would have made it. And she had such an unshakable faith. And she really inspired so many people, myself included. I learned a lot of makeup tips from Jessica. She was just such an awesome person. I didn't know her personally, but I was just a follower and a supporter of her work and a huge fan. And it was just nice to see another woman on the platform doing big things. And I'm just so sad and sorry about her passing. And I don't know if her family will ever see this, but you have my sincere condolences. And I know that you are going through it, especially her husband and her two beautiful daughters. So I just wanted to say, I'm so sorry. And I'm happy that she's out of her pain, but I'm missing her terribly, like so many other people are. So rest easy, Jessica. We love you. And all the best to her family. Guys, I'll see you all next week. Thank you so much if you've made it to the end of this video. And I love you. And I'll see you next week. Bye.